right, hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you a little trick that I stumbled onto that helps with factoring, but I want to talk about what I see in there that doesn't actually work. Because a lot of times when I'm kind of scrolling through YouTube and stuff, they suggest math things to me because I'm a math teacher. I immediately want to check it out and see what happens, right? So the thing is that there are a lot of cool little shortcuts and tips and things that you can find online, but they don't always work. And so my immediate thought is, I want to test this. So what we're going to start with is this, in this example, is this trinomial here. But this only works if you have a quadratic trinomial, right? And so with the quadratic trinomial, if your leading coefficient is 1, you don't even want to use this method. There's an easier method, right? And so this is like a subset of polynomials you're going to use. And so in this example, we have where that first term is not a 1. And so this method can work sometimes for this, right? Let's test it out. So here's the general idea. If I have this polynomial, what I want to do actually first is take this thing and multiply the first number, the 3, by the last number, the -5, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to replace the c with the result of that multiplication. So x squared plus 14x minus 15. All right, now once you have this, you can factor it like any quadratic trinomial where the leading coefficient is 1. We just need to know what two things multiply to make 15 negative and add to make 14. Well, there's only two factor pairs that multiply to 15, and that first one looks pretty good. I just have to make the 1 a negative. So that -1 times 15 is -15. And then -1 plus 15 would be positive 14. And so we can factor that, put those two magic numbers in parentheses with x's, boom, you're done, right? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Well now, what about the 3, right? What's the deal with that? How do we handle that? Well, this is where the little trick that they throw in comes in, right? So I want to check and see, are either of these numbers, 15 or 1, divisible by that 3, right? Okay, the 15 is divisible by 3, so we can divide it. The 1 is not. So we're not going to divide the 1. Instead, what they do is they take that 3 and they're going to put it in front of the x instead, like this, right? And so once you have that, that is how you factor it, right? And I like this method. It's a lot easier than what I normally do to show kind of how to handle a quadratic trinomial where that leading coefficient is not 1. And it's pretty nice. But my immediate reaction is like, can I break this? Can I find a flaw in it? So I'm gonna show you another example, and let's see what happens if we make it a little bit more complicated. Okay, so in this example, we've got another quadratic trinomial. The leading coefficient is not 1, and so we'll go through the same steps here. First, we'll multiply the first and the last number. And so we do 6 times -10, that's -60, and we're gonna factor it like a quadratic trinomial where that leading coefficient is 1. And so I need to know what multiplies to make -60 and adds to make -11. For me personally, it helps to write out all those factors, which I did on the last one. This one, there's just more things. And so once I have this list, or once I kind of write it out, I can then figure out, well, 4 and 15 looks pretty good for multiplying to 60. And then if I make that 15 negative, 4 plus -15 would be -11. And so those two numbers are good. We can put those two in parentheses with x's, and there we factored that with a leading coefficient of 1. Now we're going to use that little trick that we did on the last one, right, that I learned from this YouTube video. Okay, so 4, okay, not divisible by 6. 15, also not divisible by 6. Okay, so what's going on here? Well, what's going on is that this trick does not always work, right? There's a limitation to it. And I actually can kind of play around with it and figure out a way to still make it sort of work. But it makes it more complicated. It makes it more difficult than what I'm just seeing online, right? I know it's fun to use little shortcuts and tricks, and I'm not against that at all. The problem is that we need to know when and how these things work. Otherwise, we're going to come up with a situation like this, and then we won't know what to do, and then you can't actually use the little trick. So I actually will probably use this, and I have already kind of shown it to a couple of students going forward, but I also need to know, and I'm probably going to test it out more, where is it going to fall short? How is it not going to work? So there you go. There's my fun little trip, and I didn't realize this video was going to take 5 minutes, but here we are. There you go. Until next time.